Thursday, that day being July 31st, 2022, well, their interactions would culminate in this 911 call.
911, what's your emergency? Hello?
There's some guy on my front porch, and he won't leave, and he's got his hands behind his back, and he won't answer me on the ring.
Okay.
But he left me a voicemail on my phone last night.
Where are you at? What's your address?
Get off my porch!
Jay! No! Oh my God, can you please hurry?
Okay. Do you know who he is? Hello? Ma'am?
Wait, we have guns.
Hey.
Yeah, it's wild and it is terrifying. The Ducro family were just home after, running some errands. Some guy had tried to burst in the door, and then gunshots rang out. So, what was the story behind all of this?
Alright, Allison, my name's Angie. I'm an investigator here, and I just want to talk to you about what happened today, okay? If you need to take a break during any of this, just let me know. If you need to use the restroom or anything, what happened today?
You want like my whole day or just?
Yep, go ahead and
Okay.
start your whole day.
Me and my mom met my mom's friend Doug for breakfast.
Okay?
We were there from I want to say 9 to like 10:45 probably.
Okay. Where'd you have breakfast?
Perkins.
Here in Sydney?
Yeah.
And you got home, I'm sorry, what time?
Like 10:59 or 11. And we got out of the car and then we were at the first little step to get off the porch, and this car whips into the driveway 2 seconds later.
Okay. Did you recognize the car at first?
No, not at first. We were both like, well, who's that? And we were like, I don't know. It's like, well, hurry up and get inside. Because that voicemail from last night had already scared me.
Well, this all began in a public high school among the endless fields that make up Western Ohio, a place called Fairlawn Local School. See, there, two teens, they met, they fell in love, they became high school sweethearts. They were Allison Ducro and James Rail. Like most high school relationships in small towns, it was on again, off again, and things were toxic from the start. Allison would say that James would send her nasty messages all the time, really toxic things, but then next minute he'd be claiming he couldn't live without her. They would break up, the relationship would become platonic, but then those sparks would again, to get lit again, rinse and repeat. This lasted for about a year and a half before they finally, they took that relationship out behind the shed and ended it for good. About time.
It was an on and off thing for a couple of years.
Okay.
I want to say in total maybe a year and a half if we added it all up.
Like all through your high school years or after you graduated?
It started in high school and then it went out of high school.
Okay.
Just very briefly.
Okay. What caused that breakup?
He was just being a dick.
Okay.
Sorry,
No.
I'm sorry.
We're all adults here. You can say whatever you need to say.
He was just being rude all the time, and I was just like, I don't want to put up with it.
Was he ever abusive physically or
No.
mentally?
Well, maybe mentally a little bit. He was just getting in my head a bunch.
Allison would finally have enough and block James Rail on social media so that the cycle couldn't begin again. This was in 2019. Allison thought she'd ended it then, but three, if you can believe it, count them, 3 long years would pass before it would finally come to a more permanent end. Now, James would move to California for about 18 months, and it seems there, he thrived. Now, it's important to note too, that James had a family who loved him. 4 siblings, no history of anger nor violence, a kind guy who was close with his family. He spent the first 8 years of his life in Louisville, Kentucky before moving with his family to Sydney, Ohio. He was big into fitness, cars, and just playing around, being a silly guy known for putting others before himself. For his occupation, he was a steel worker. However, after about a year and a half in California, for whatever reason, James decided to return to the small town of Sydney, Ohio. This was around the beginning of 2021, and small town, Allison would bump into him from time to time. They would have some mutual friends, but Allison really did not want to have anything to do with him. She made it clear she didn't want to, be friends. She didn't want to rekindle nothing. She made it clear, she was very uncomfortable being around him. And she would never speak to him directly, but she would to his friends, or for example, her cousin was one of his closest friends. Allison would be next time you're talking to James, just tell him to keep his distance. Please. But something in California changed James. Allison would say he came back different. Now also, this was in 2021, the height of COVID. That affected many people very negatively, to say the least. Perhaps that's why James came back. And it wasn't doing him any favours either. Friends would say he was acting weird. Something in him had changed. He just wasn't very pleasant. He just wasn't a very pleasant guy to be around. Now, it's not like he was, I don't know, off the handle. He didn't really do drugs much. He just smoked weed from time to time. That was about it.
Is there anything about him that you think we should know about his personality? Has he ever threatened anybody before? Was he like a fighter?
I thought he was always very nice. He was okay in high school, but then after he came back from California, he just was different.
So all of that, see, which is not that much, led up to events late July 2022. And I think the fact that it's not much makes what actually happened all the more shocking. See, on the night of July 30th, 2022, Allison had received a call, but it came in while she was asleep. So she only saw the call and heard the voicemail the following morning. The call had been from James Rail. Obviously, this was extremely surprising to Allison. She hadn't spoken to him in yonks. And so she pressed play, and this is what she heard.
Hi, Ellie. It's James. I just wanted to reach out to you because I just wanted to see how you're doing. Maybe hear from you, if that would be alright, I guess. It's been a while since I've talked to you, and I don't know. I feel like it, I don't know what I feel.
Honestly, it sounds kind of sad. It sounds like he was depressed, or something, at least to me that's how it sounds. So Allison was humming and hawing about what to do. She wasn't really sure how to respond. How do you respond to this?
What did the voicemail say?
Well, he was making a weird noise at the beginning. I don't know what it was. And then he kept saying, hey, I want to call you. You should call me back tomorrow because I know it's late. And then he just kept saying after that. And I was like, that's a little weird.
Okay.
Because I know how he usually talks, and it wasn't like that at all. Usually he was a nice kid before this.
Okay.
I don't know what it was.
When's the last time you had talked to him?
It was either the beginning of last year or the end of the year before, because my cousin had been living with us for a little bit,
Okay.
and him and my cousin were friends, so he came to pick him up. And I told Clay, my cousin, I was like, hey, did you tell him that I'm not comfortable with him being over and everything? He was like, yeah, that's fine. And that was it.
As you can imagine, old boyfriend and Hannah exactly ended in the best possible way. And in a small town, these cycles tend to repeat themselves. Allison, well, she thought the only response she could have, which would be a mature and grown-up one, was simply no response at all. She decided not to call back, not to text him back, not to anything, just in case it would give him maybe the wrong idea about where this would end, or where this would go. But it appears that James would not take no response as a response. It was later that same day, Allison and her mother went out for breakfast, and then did some shopping at a nearby store, picking up a few odds and ends, arriving home around 11 a.m. As they were on the porch, just opening the door, a car pulled into the driveway behind them, and you can hear them ask, whose car is that?
Stop it, Allie. Boys, in the house.
He had to have either been sitting somewhere and seen us, or he was just already falling. I don't know. I don't want to assume anything.
Right.
They continued into the house at this point, unaware that that was actually James's car. He got out and rang the doorbell, but when no one answered, as you can assume, they checked the camera and saw it was James.
I'm doing it. Oh, wait. He's leaving. Hey, he's coming back. Nope, I'm coming. James, she doesn't want to talk to you.
Well, he then started to get agitated. He's got this dazed look on his face, like a 1,000-yard stare or something. Allison called 911 while he was outside. He then began busting the door down. Now, throughout this, the Ducros inside can be heard, shouting, telling him to stop, to get away, and then finally, Allison's father, Mitchell, says he has a gun. James kept barging in, and he finally busted through the door. He did not set foot inside the house, but the door was broken. However, as soon as the door finally gave way, Mitchell, who's standing directly under your side, he opened fire on James Rail. James was shot as he ran, shot in the back, shot 3 times, and he died in the driveway.
Okay. Hey, what? Okay, wait. He's fine. He don't have nothing. He don't have no gun. He don't have no gun. Don't do anything.
He was trying to break in and get to our daughter.
Okay, well, he's not moving. He don't have a gun.
He broke our door in. Trying to get to our daughter. Our daughter's busted in.
Okay, hold on. Did you shoot him?
Yes.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Weirdly, the neighbor who overheard what had happened decided to get into an argument about this. I think he missed the whole breaking down the door part. Why are you here?
Was he dating her?
They dated a long time ago. It was a long time ago.
I think.
And he left her voicemail, left a message last night.
He's gone. Dude, he's about ready to die. He did get it. It's something that, I mean, he's still breathing, but barely.
Man, stop staring at this man, bro.
I think he was taking a few breaths there a little bit ago, and then he quit. So I think he died.
So we're here next door and all this.
I heard the gunshots and I seen him drop and.
Invasion. The homeowner. I mean, you see a body laying there.
Now, the footage and these pictures of the door do show pretty clearly he was breaking into their home, and they had been warning him to go away. But a big part of this, and what would make this quite controversial, was that James Rail, he was shot in the back. The bullet that killed him had gone into his back. A medical examiner, by the way, would later say that James Rail had no intoxicants in his system, no drugs or alcohol of any kind. Most people viewed Mitchell as a guy who saved his daughter's life. But because James was shot in the back, evidence from the case was gathered to decide if he should be prosecuted or no.
So you've been split up for a couple years. When's the last time you've talked to him? So there's been no communication for 2 years, and then just out of the blue, he started. The detectives will want to check that out and everything else.
The evidence from the case was ultimately presented to a grand jury to decide whether Mitchell should be charged or no. However, the Ring camera, luckily they had one, it showed to the grand jury he had acted in self-defense and in defense of his family.
I can't imagine what you're going through for that. Horrible.
James, he wasn't armed, but there's no way the Ducros could have or would have, known that. This guy, obsessed ex-boyfriend, is trying to break through your door. It's a scary situation for everybody involved. It's absolutely terrifying. Who knows what he was going to do that day? Nobody will ever know. The jury decided 8-1 that Mitchell Ducros should not be indicted for killing James Rail. This was not a happy story. No one wins here. It's extremely tragic.
A grand jury voted 8-1 not to indict the father, citing Ohio's stand your ground law. Now the slain man's sister tells me she wants a more extensive investigation into the killing.
There wasn't a full investigation done. They were only on the scene for 2 hours and then rushed it to the grand jury.
Jessica Colbert admits we may never know what her brother hoped to accomplish when he went to the house that fateful day.
My brother had no history of anger or violence.
James Rail's family have continued to say that they feel it's unjust, and a full investigation was never done in relation to his death. But unless the footage is extremely doctored, it seems like he did come acting in a threatening manner. Something must have, triggered him the night before when he called Alison, someone he hadn't spoken to in years. That triggered him enough for him to show up to their house the next day and not take no for no answer. Who knows? But I think you might agree that there was probably no good ending to this case. This next story is short, but it is wild, and this one is probably no real debate about what happened. I don't think you can debate this one. I don't think this one will be controversial at all. Arlington Heights, just outside of Chicago, Illinois is the place, and the year was 2020. April 4th of that year, which was, as we can remember all too well, pretty much everything was shut down thanks to the Viddy. Thanks, Viddy. This story was all captured once again on Ring camera. Folks, home invasions, get those Ring cameras in. Ring cameras, I am open to sponsorships. In this footage, right, we can see two men masked up walk to the front of this house right here. Those two men were Bradley Finnan, 38 years of age, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Larry Brodach, 58 years of age, from Buffalo Grove, Illinois. They were friends and they had met through their work as car salesmen. And from car salesmen to robbers, they were planning on robbing the occupants of this house at Iron Point. They had the shooters on them. They were armed. This was all planned out. See, inside the house was a man named Sebastian Maniscalco, his wife, and their two young children. In those bags were zip ties, a blowtorch, and as I said, they were armed. They rocked up and knocked on the door. Homeowner Sebastian thought they were landscapers and that they were just wearing masks because of the pandemic. So he opened the door to them. The pair pushed in and pulled out their guns. This then led to a struggle right on the other side of that door between Sebastian and Bradley, struggling for the gun, while Sebastian's wife, she booked it. She ran up the stairs to her children in her children's room, while the other guy, Larry, he chased the wife up to the room where the kids are. He then pulled an iron on Sebastian's wife and two kids inside. Bradley and Sebastian continued to fight. This ended up outside, and Bradley then legged it out of there. He ran for his life. Sebastian then ran to his own bedroom to get his own gun. Larry followed him into his bedroom, smacked Sebastian over the back of the head. There was another struggle between Sebastian and Larry. Larry then dropped his gun, pulled out a knife. Sebastian pulled out a gun. He shot him dead. This is a movie. A home invasion gone horribly wrong for the home invaders, but that's a good thing. Larry Brodach was pronounced dead at the scene, and Bradley Finnan was soon arrested at his mother's home. Sebastian Maniscalco had fought off two home invaders and saved his own and his family's lives. He'd fought like a lion. He'd been a hero for what he had done, in fairness. And this is the weird part. Well, there's actually two. One is that Larry Brodach had a history of home invasions going back 30 years, if you can believe that. He'd been like in and out of prison, reportedly. According to Bradley Finnan anyway, he would say Larry was always talking about all these home invasions he had done. And the reason they chose this house in particular is insane. By the way, they did not know each other. Sebastian had never met Larry or Bradley before in his life. The reason they chose this house was that Larry, during his many home invasions, he claimed that in this house, they had $200,000 in cash in boxes. He knew that because he had seen it 20 years ago. He thought it might still be there, so may as well rob it.
Finnan is facing home invasion and murder charges after an attempted home invasion in Arlington Heights.
The second bizarre thing is that Bradley Finnan was charged with murder because under Illinois felony murder law, homicide charges can be filed when someone is killed during the course of a crime, even if the death was caused by someone else, and the person charged with murder did not intend for the person to die. So basically, it's Bradley's fault that his friend was killed, and so he was screwed. There have been no updates on this case since charges were filed back in April 2020, but that's insane. People did not find this one controversial at all. And finally, I have a third story for you in this whole video, and this one is, again, people found it pretty controversial, too. You might be familiar, as when this happened, a lot of articles came out, so, routinely saying, TikToker kills neighbor for TikTok views or whatever. That's not exactly what happened. This story takes us to Vineland, New Jersey. Zachary Latham was an 18-year-old living in Vineland, New Jersey, and he was a bit of a nuisance to his neighbors. Zachary was emancipated from his parents at just 16 years of age, and he had enlisted in the New Jersey National Guard after just turning 18, but not long after he separated from them for reasons unknown. In 2020, he was living in Vineland with his wife, Sarah Latham, and his grandparents. And Zach loved cars, so much so he posted a lot about them on TikTok, and he had a growing audience of about 40,000 people, which is pretty good. He would often post videos of him driving real fast. He was a real boy racer, you know, revving the engines loudly, speeding through this quiet residential neighborhood, that sort of thing. However, some of his neighbors did not exactly enjoy him speeding through this quiet residential suburban neighborhood. It's a douche move, let's be honest. It's a residential neighborhood family, there's lots of kids here, and nobody wants a piece of shit car drive up by your house really fast. And so one day, that day being April 6th, 2020, one of his neighbors, they just had enough. By the way, funnily enough, that's only 2 days after somebody made a very regrettable home invasion up in Illinois. After that day, things kind of spun out from there.
What are you gonna do, Karen?
That's not my name, so get my name straight. Go ahead.
You okay, Karen? Go ahead, get my tag.
Go.
Get my tag, Karen.
My name is not Karen, so get my name straight.
Get my tag, it's okay.
A45MFA. Sir, is it officer?
This video would later get over 3 million views in just a few days. It went very viral. See, his neighbors were the Durham family, 4 doors down. A family of 4. William Durham was the dad, and he'd worked almost 2 decades as a prison officer. His wife was Catherine, who went by Tiffany, her middle name, who you can see here in this famous TikTok. And they had 2 sons, Billy, William Jr. Billy, 21 years of age, and Gage, 17. Now the Durhams, as you can imagine, did not take too kindly to this old video, but Zach, it was a hit for him. Jeez, he's gone viral, he's famous. May as well lean into it. Why not get more of the same? And his viewers are kind of egging him on, too, because of the whole, you know, Karen-esque. People love to hate their Karens. Do you think many literal Karens changed their name because of the whole Karen thing? Some of his followers would even drive by the Durham house, like taunting them. They became like famous because Zach was posting the address for everybody to see. The entire Durham family, this would have words with Zach. He would be driving outside their house, taunting them, ready to film them. This kept escalating and escalating, shouting in the streets, all that sort of stuff. Zach seems like a real douchebag at this point. The Durhams kind of seem rightfully annoyed.
All because my car is loud. 3 cop cars.
Tiffany would call the police numerous times on Zach. There'd be allegations that he had tried to run them off the road while they were cycling down the streets. Tiffany would once call saying he had physically assaulted her, that she had a black eye, but charges would never be pressed. Like, even the police were well aware of the feud that was going on this street between these 2 families. I mean, between the entire Durham family and then just Zach.
A knife, dude, you better play. I'm calling the cops on you, that's good. Alright. Yeah.
Zach was making life basically awful for everybody who lived there. This would culminate on May 4th, 2020. Just 1 month. That's just 1 month after the initial TikTok. That day, Zach, his wife, and 2 of his friends, they went dirt biking in the afternoon. Going to and coming from, they would have incidents with the Durhams, including the big one. See, it was on the way home from dirt biking that the Durham family stopped him and confronted him once again. They were ready for him parked in the middle of the road. After another argument, Zach and Sarah arrived home. And at this point, Zach told Sarah to start recording. Basically, they're gonna follow us home. Sarah waited outside while Zach went inside, got a knife and a stun gun, and then stood in the driveway. This is what happened. It's pretty horrifying.
I promise you, you better back up because you're not going to like what's coming out. I promise you. No. No. Back out. Back up. Big. Get off of my property.
Oh, you got a job? You got me?
Get off the property.
A struggle ensued between Zach, Billy, and William, with the two Durhams following Zach into his garage, and things escalated pretty quickly. Two of Zach's friends were still inside his car, two friends they'd gone dirt biking with, and they then rushed in after to try and help their friend Zach. The Durhams began hitting Zach on the ground, and at one point, William was stabbed by Zach in the armpit. This stab actually punctured William's lung. The Durhams left Zach's house, with Bill helping his dad William into the truck, and they went home. But at this point, no one really knew how bad William was, and Zach was in fact the one that called 911. It actually seems that Zach was the one who knew how bad William was before his own family did, probably because he could see how much blood was in his garage.
911, where's your emergency? There's blood all over the place. I just got assaulted and jumped. Are you the one that got stabbed? No, that was the other victim, but I got beat up really bad and I have blood all over me. And you want an ambulance? I don't know. All right, the people who did it to you, are they still there? They came with trucks, came on my property with guns, and then when I fought them off, they drove away. All right, how are you injured, sir? My windpipe was crushed in, and I got stomped out and choked by like 10 people. All right, and where are you bleeding from? I don't know. There's blood all over me. I don't even know if it's cut. There's blood all over our garage. Okay. Now, the person came in and said they had guns and they were going to kill us, and they came in my garage and attacked all of us. There was 4 people. Okay. Hold on 1 second for the police, okay? Okay.
Now, there wasn't 10 people armed with guns. There sure as shit wasn't. There wasn't even 4 people. There was just the 2 of them. And then pretty soon emergency services arrived. William was slipping out, and he eventually passed away. When the police arrived to Zach's, they were sure one of them was hurt due to the amount of blood, but no, that was all William Durham's. This was a neighborhood feud that had ended in the most horrifying way, with Zachary Latham killing William Durham. But, Booty, with all these stories, was it in self-defense? And was it justifiable? Self-defense. It was ruled a homicide, and Zachary was charged with manslaughter. Zachary pleaded not guilty. He was released from jail and moved to Florida while he was awaiting trial. He actually continued posting TikToks, by the way, taunting, continually posting the Durham family's address, and basically, kind of being the same person he was pre-killing somebody. Which is like, even if it's, in self-defense and whatnot, you could still, not taunt the family of the guy he killed. Eventually, a judge had to ban him from basically being online. Though he did decide to go on a little crime spree down in Florida, being arrested for attempting to ram someone's car, threatening another person with an airsoft AK-47, aggravated stalking, video voyeurism, contempt of court for violating a domestic violence injunction, loitering, battery, following women around, demanding they come to his house. A couple of few things, and from the arrest pictures, he did not look like he was doing too good. He went on trial in the spring of 2023. Ultimately, the jury found Zachary Latham not guilty on all charges.
To the provisions of NJSA 2C11-4B1 and against the peace of this state, the government and dignity of the state.
Not guilty.
It is a controversial case because Zachary seemed like a bit of a douchebag in all fairness. He probably did deserve a bit of a smack for what he was doing. But the way they came at him, and it was found that William Durham was drunk at the time and they had intended to do him harm.